I've always loved gardens, but I went to Japan and fell in love with the Japanese gardens. And it was the feel of the gardens that I loved. It was the tranquility, it was the peace, it was the age, it was the connection with nature. I start each day at my big window with a cup of tea, and I sit here for probably about half an hour, and it's where I draw the peace and the tranquility from the beautiful garden space that I look out onto. It's a dry landscape garden that's created by using gravel, raked gravel, that symbolises flowing water. But it has a practical function as well, because I am in a flame zone and I slope away to the west, and I'm very, very exposed to severe bushfires. So it was basically to use a dry landscape to be a fire prevention feature at the back of the house as well. The other thing too is the back of the house is completely corrugated iron, so the back of the house is very protected from fire. So we're sitting on top of now a 10,000 litre water tank that's under the house, and I have a fire pump and I have a fire hose, and I know how to use them. Water not managed well can do a lot of damage. Just in front of the Zen garden, there's some stonework that's done to control the levels so that it doesn't rush down the gravel path and wash it all down. So it drains into a little Japanese garden gutter. So they're the sorts of things that aren't very big to do, but can really help you manage water on the site. So the stormwater now, most of my stormwater goes into a dry creek bed. One of the things that I've done in the garden is to use the Japanese style garden guttering. And one of the things I loved about the Japanese gardens is you go into a garden, and because they recycle so much material, you'd find many of their different garden gutters were made out of different things. Some would be brick, some would be bits of slate, and some would be different things. The creek works really well functionally, where it slows the stormwater down and it doesn't allow it to go on the neighbour's property or to do any damage to the environment. But it's also a wonderful central aesthetic spine in the garden.
How does it slow the water down?
There are two Reln trenches, R-E-L-N trenches. That's the brand name of them. And they're probably 3 metres long. They're quite significant infrastructure. They're designed to slow water down. They fill up and they slow water down and eventually release it. But they also release it into the surrounding soil, which is good in terms of water retention on the block. But they're very, very, very important for the proper functioning of the creek. In this part of the dry creek bed, deep down there's the second of the Reln trenches. So again, they have the function of slowing the water down. But it looks quite beautiful when the water's just flowing and trickling over there and trickling over there. So I get some little waterfalls in here as well, which is lovely. The main thing is that you place your rocks strategically where the water is going to flow. So in my dry creek bed, I've got very big rocks and then smaller rocks. So you position the rocks, but you could do smaller rocks in a smaller dry creek bed. The other thing that I think is important with the dry creek bed is that I didn't want to have a still water because of the mosquitoes and the algae and the maintenance of it. So with the dry creek bed, it's much, much easier to maintain than having still water. My garden has two areas. There's an area where all of the practical things are, my clothesline, my knitted vegetable garden. And then there's an area that you walk through, a little Japanese garden gate. I call it moving from the profane to the sacred. That the back part of the garden is where I've shaded it more. But once you get through the back part, because I actually slope away to the west, it was very, very hot. So I've done a lot to shade, and I've done a lot to sort of protect the back garden, to make it a place where it's much cooler on a hot day. So I can sit down in my very back corner on a hot day, which is a wonderful space, which is cool all the time. It's a space for calm, and I think I've started to create that feeling in the garden of tranquility and peace that I think is so important for our mental health.